Come on. Always room for one more at the bar. What do you have? Let me guess. On the rocks. Neat. Yeah, I got it. Oh, I don't know. I guess it's just a knack that I picked up over the years. Yeah, this is my place. My father's before me. He raised me to be a bartender, so that's what I do best. Yeah, I always thought he was pretty special. Dad always said you could learn a lot about people by working in a place like this. Yeah, by watching folks and listening to what they say. Oh, sure you can. You'd be surprised how much you can tell about a fella just by the way he walks or holds his glass. Yeah, you might even say I'm a student of human nature. Another one? Sure thing. Oh, by the way, my name's Lloyd. Lloyd Palmer.
Veidt Radio Theater presents Palmer's Place.
What's that? Yeah, sure, take a look around. Plenty to see here, too. Yeah, I guess we've been collecting a lot of pictures and stuff for nearly 60 years, my dad and me. They're mostly mementos from the folks that have passed through here. Yeah, I guess I could write a book. A lot of history in here, too. Oh, that? Hanging up by the mirror? Well, now that's a coin that was a tip I got from a customer. And a friend of mine, he put it in a frame for me. Quite a story behind it, too. Sure, I'll tell you. Here, let me freshen up that drink a bit. Now, let's see. It must have been last year or so when this guy comes up to the bar.
Palmer's Place is brought to you by the Visaria Brewing Company, makers of fine beers and ales for centuries.
It was cold and rainy like it usually is around these parts in the fall. And this guy comes in, alone. There was something different. I don't know, the way he carried himself. No, I wouldn't call him a wallflower. We got along all right, I guess. But just something different about him. Kind of make it a point to look into a man's face the first time I meet him. You know what I mean? If a stranger comes in here, well, let's just say I don't want no fights breaking out. You get to be a pretty good judge of people. He was tall and he carried himself well. A man who works all his life shows it in the way he walks or stands. But he was no laborer. Oh, he looked like he could have taken on any 2 or 3 good men in the place. But he didn't look like the kind of guy that would get into a scrap. Kind of dignified, I guess. But it was his eyes. When he looked directly at you, well, I sort of felt hypnotized. It was like he knew a secret and was laughing to spite you. Suddenly, I realized he was standing at the bar talking to me, and I was just staring back at him open-mouthed. His voice matched him perfectly in an odd way, but too seasoned to be coming out of this strong, virile face. Well, by the time I got my wits about me, I heard him asking me for a...
Cognac. Carente cognac, if you please.
Come again?
Carente cognac.
Let's take a look. The best I can do is, let's see, brandy? First one's on me. Sorry about this, mister, but I don't get much call for cognac. I can order some, though, if you'll be coming around often.
Thank you, sir. That would be outstanding.
You know, I'm quite good at placing dialects. In a city this size, I think I heard them all, but I don't think I can place your accent. Italian, but there's also a bit of Boston in there, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, well, I have traveled a great deal since childhood, and I'm afraid that in the process I have acquired a unique dialect.
Came in once in a while, kind of regular like, but he never caused no problems. I never really paid no mind to him. Well, when I got the cognac order in, I went up to the attic. My dad had stored all the old glassware up there, and I figured I might get a couple of brandy sniffers out for my new friend. It took a lot of rummaging around, but...
Yeah, your dad used to always say you could never tell trash from treasure.
Yeah, and he saved just about everything he ever got his hands on.
Anyway, Sure enough, I found the snifters lovingly wrapped in newspaper and packed into a box like they were the family jewels. Well, sir, I brought down 4 of them and was going to give them the first soap and water they'd seen since my dad passed away. When I unwrapped them, I almost couldn't believe my eyes. There he was, my newest customer. There was his picture in a newspaper that was over 20 years old, staring back at me with those same piercing eyes that had shot at me across this very bar not 72 hours before. I looked at the name under the picture, Captain Mark Arlow. According to the story, he had been shot down somewhere over France during the war and was listed as missing in action. There were no relatives or family members, so the paper said, and even though he was from around these parts, neither the military nor the newspaper could find anyone connected to him to collect the honors. There was no doubt about it. The same knowing smile he had flashed at me looked almost sinister through the yellowed newsprint. But the picture looked exactly the same as the guy that was in here 2 nights before. Not a single wrinkle or gray hair in over 20 years. But how can that be?
Lloyd, I need 4 beers, 2 scotch and sodas, a Bloody Mary, and a gin and tonic, no lime.
Yeah, I got you, Ruthie. So anyway...
So you found the newspaper in the attic? Come on.
Oh, yeah. So a few evenings later, my friend shows up. And I was ready for this, or so I thought. Hiya. I was hoping you'd come in again. The cognac came in, and I even brought out the good crystal. Yeah, my name's Lloyd Palmer.
Arlow, Mark Arlow.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Arlow.
Arlow.
Oh, Mr. Arlow, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. A taste of my fondest memories. This is the finest cognac in the world. They've made it just this way for centuries.
Really?
Believe me, I should know.
That did it. Arlow, Arlow, names are too similar. And I could tell when I called him Arlow, it bothered him plenty. I've been reading faces for a long time, and I've never seen a reaction like, well, it was all in those eyes of his. I decided to put an end to the nagging in the back of my mind and find out, good or bad. Well, I spent an afternoon at the library looking up records, hoping that I could find something that would convince me it was just some sort of a mistake. I started by looking up the names Arlow and Arlow, and both names kept showing up, but never at the same time. The first reference I found was a photo of a Civil War regiment dated 1862. Arlow dies, Arlow pops up. Same age, same face. This whole thing was starting to give me the willies. The next afternoon, Doc Kinsey comes in. You know Kinsey.
Oh, yeah, I know the doc. He's a professor down to the college there.
Anyway, I figured if anyone could find out something about my strange new friend, it would be the professor. So, Doc, you're pretty good at genealogy, history of family names.
Oh, sure, Lloyd.
Did you ever hear the name Arlow before?
Arlow? Let me see, Arlow. It goes back several centuries. There was one in the War of 1812, and I believe there was one present at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I believe there was also an Arlow in the Crusade.
Hey, Doc, are there any pictures I can see? Maybe some of your old lecture manuals might have some pictures.
Pictures? It was before the days of photography, obviously, Lloyd. There are some interesting paintings, though. There's a mural at the City Hall, the signing of the Declaration of Independence by John Trumbull, of course. We could go over there right now, Lloyd, and have a look at it if you'd like.
Sure, Doc.
Lloyd, you've never been that interested in history. You got your teeth into something?
So we walked downtown. It was a beautiful morning, and we talked a bit on the way. The professor and I go back a lot of years, and He's pretty smart about a lot of things. People, places, dates. And he's decided many barroom bets on how many inches there are in a mile or how big the catfish was that Fred Connor caught 4 years ago at the Founders Picnic. Anyway, I had told Doc my thoughts about Arlow and the other stuff I found at the library, and about the strange way it had settled over me. Doc thought he had seen Arlow last week on his way out, and he admitted he sure wasn't like the regulars we usually get in this part of town. Well, sir, by the time we got down to the courthouse...
It's beautiful, isn't it, Lloyd? The original painting hangs in the Capitol building in D.C., of course.
There they were.
One of my favorite paintings.
Jefferson, Hancock, Franklin, Adams, and standing in the back row, fourth from the left, was the unmistakable face of my cognac-sipping comrade.
Let's see. I'm sure he was present. Oh, there he is. Back row, fourth from the left. See? Why? Boy, that does bear...
My God, Doc, that's him. That's Mark Arlow. Doc picked him out right away. Even he saw the resemblance, without so much as a nudge from me. But now what? Do I confront Arlow or whatever his name is? In a way, I felt better that Doc was in on this. He was too respectable, too smart to be taken. But even he seemed a little thrown by it. He offered to do a little more background checking on our mysterious stranger. In the meantime, I was just going to have to bite my tongue. And that's not easy for a bartender to do.
You can say that again.
Good evening, Mr. Palmer.
Hiya, Mr. Arlow. Always room for one more at the bar. Hey, there you go.
Thank you, sir.
Say, Mr. Arlow, have you moved into the neighborhood for good, or are you just in town on business?
I relocate quite frequently. A habit from younger days, I'm afraid.
Ah, a bachelor. Never settled down, huh?
Oh, I had a family. Once. A long time ago. My wife died, and my son was murdered.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I thank you for your sympathy, Mr. Palmer. You know, it seems a lifetime ago.
Well, I didn't see that coming. My questions were making him uneasy, and I didn't feel like pressing the matter. Not now, anyway. I quickly changed the subject. I could see the sorrow in his eyes when he talked about his family. Maybe I was wrong about him. Maybe he was just a lonely guy who couldn't get over the loss. He wouldn't have been the first one that's walked in here, I can tell you that. I mean, after all, how could anybody live all those years? It was starting to sound crazy. I felt bad for the poor soul, and I felt foolish for believing that after the Declaration of Independence was signed, he gets on a plane, disappears over France, and shows up in my bar for a refreshing nightcap 100 and some odd years later without so much as a rumple.
Yeah, really. No kidding.
It was crazy. But later that evening, after Arlow had left, Kinsey came in, clutching a large envelope. Yeah, he looked like a kid who had just found a quarter in a parking lot.
Lloyd. Oh, Lloyd, you're just not going to believe this.
What is it, Doc? Are you okay?
I'm fine. It's the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. Here, look. You see this name here?
Marcus Ariel.
Ariel, yes. Say it in Latin.
Wait a minute, Ariel. In Latin, that's...
Arliss. Yes.
Doc, where'd you get this?
This is a copy of a ship's register out of Portopelo, Spain. It was one of the first to come over to North America.
To Santa Maria?
Exactly, Lloyd. See, Arliss was signed on as the navigator.
But Ariel's not from Spain.
Yes, I know that. But I've found records of Columbus's move from Italy to Portugal, and then on to Spain, where most of the crew was hired. Columbus had his own private staff, including his personal navigator, Ariel. It appears as though Ariel had some hand in Columbus's plan to reach India via an eastern route.
And that would take him back to Italy in the late 1400s.
Exactly. Now, I have some interns at the campus searching through the university's library. We're checking for this name in the Italian archives. Oh, goodness, look at the time. I must get back to the university. I don't want the dean finding out I'm using university interns for a personal project. I'll talk to you later, Lloyd.
Now, in all the years I've been friends with the doc, I can't remember him ever being wrong. Maybe I was onto something in the first place. Maybe Arlow was over 500 years old. But what was I supposed to do about it? It's no concern of mine. Still, I guess it's just one of those things. I had to know. If he had lived for hundreds of years already, there wasn't much I could do to keep him from living hundreds more. Now, my dad always said the best way to get good information was to go straight to the source. So I knew I'd have to confront him. The next night, when Arlow came in, I felt a little anxious. I wasn't quite sure how to approach him. But I figured if I was right, in the last 500 years, he'd been through this a few times and probably would help me along once I got started. Hey, always room for one more at the bar. There you go, Mr. Arlow.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. I do appreciate your hospitality.
All in a good day's work. Say, Mr. Arlow, the boys were talking early, and we figured we had people from all over the world here in the course of a week. Like take Gus over there, shooting pool. He's from Greece, and Stanley here.
Oh, hey there, Lloyd.
His grandfather came over from Poland. Lee and his wife, they're from China. Oh, what country did you say your family's from?
I did not say, Mr. Palmer.
Well, let me guess then, Italy, maybe.
Very good, Mr. Palmer. My tongue seems to have betrayed me once again. Quite surprised at your insight. Most people in this world have no idea whom it is they walk next to every day.
Thank you, Mr. Arlow. Yeah, my dad raised me to read folks pretty well. How long ago did the Arlows come to the States?
Quite some time ago.
Like, say, 500 years?
Ah, Mr. You are a man of extremely rare qualities. So often men do not realize the details that surround them, simply because it would require an effort. How ridiculous for the stranger he is who is surprised at anything that happens in life. But you, my friend, you can see beyond the immediate, and that impresses me greatly.
Tell me, Mr. Ariel, how was the crossing? Being navigator on a ship like the Santa Maria, I'm sure you were good, quite good. So how is it that you missed the Straits? Or did you miss them? Did you really think you were en route to India, or was that just a...
It did not matter where I landed, Mr. Palmer. It never has. It was an opportunity to try again, to start over one more time. For as long as I can remember, I have been this way, the way that I am. I have seen that look before, Mr. Palmer. You are part of an elite group that have found me enough of a riddle to seek a solution. Keeping a secret such as this is far more difficult than you might think. Throughout history, mankind has had precise explanations for the origins of life and the meaning of existence. When confronted with someone or something that challenges these beliefs, most men would choose to ignore it. But not you. My good sir, do you know what it is like to see your loved ones and families grow old and die? To know that everyone you allow yourself to get close to will perish before your eyes? That you will outlive everyone. Everyone. Wives, children, time and time again, until their memories grow so distant they are but faded images. Every child that cries is my own son, until reality pulls me back through the fabric of time, and I realized that the cries are thousands of years old, and that there is no one to remember that child but me. No. I must live with the loneliness of eternity. Eternity. That is a curse with which no man should live. Everyone dreams of that which plagues me, for they can never perceive the terrible price that time can extract from a man. The best I can hope for is to serve out my life sentence alone.
Listen, I don't know the price you paid or why you were chosen or how, but you're living history. All you've achieved in life was because of the insight you could provide. And by living through the ages, you can keep mankind from repeating the mistakes of the past. Don't you realize that our whole view of history...
Realize, Mr. Palmer. To realize the precise impact of my affliction, I have all the time in the world.
Lloyd! Oh, thank goodness I got here. Look at this. It turned up not 20 minutes ago. Lloyd, what's the matter? What are you staring
He's
at?
gone.
Why did the ghost?
He's gone. Did you see him?
Who?
Did you? He was standing right here when you came in.
Arlow?
And he told me, Doc. He told me. I swear, he so much as told me.
What did he say?
He told me the lifetimes he's lived. And thousands of years of running.
And Arlow actually told you this?
He's a lot older than we even thought. He's not like the rest of us, Doc. The poor soul. He's all alone in the world. Arlo's gone for good, Doc. And he's not coming back on his own.
And it is true. It's too remarkable. Lloyd, look at this. Mr. Arlow gets around, and you're not the first one to notice. Here. Marcus Verus Aurelius. He was born in 121 AD. He was a brilliant leader. He even wrote a book on moral conduct by the time he was 20. Now, eventually, he took the throne until 180 AD. Now, it was rumored at that time that he perished in battle against the Germans. And nobody seems to know exactly what happened. It appears the generals rose against him as often as the barbarians did.
What do you mean, Doc?
Well, I believe that they must have seen something strange in him. Just like you did, Lloyd. It's possible that Aurelius thought he could disappear in the confusion of battle, then return a generation later under a new identity, and secretly edit historical records, trying to obscure anything that might give away his secret.
What do the records say happened after his death?
Well, it seems his son took over the throne, but was himself brutally murdered, perhaps for confronting the very persons who threatened his father's secret. I'm afraid we'll never know why exactly for sure.
Arlo said his son was murdered. It all fits.
Of course, as telling as these documents are, I'm still only speculating. And without solid physical evidence, I'm afraid we're only talking ancient history.
Living history, Doc. Look at that.
It's a gold piece. Arlo must have left it here on the bar for you. Early Latin text. Appears to be ancient Roman, 1st century. Look at the detail in the casting. It's hardly worn. My God. Lloyd, look carefully at the portrait engraved.
Doc, it's Mr. Arlo.
No kidding. Wow.
Now, I never bothered taking that coin into an expert. Doc swore it was authentic, and the Doc's word has always been good enough for me. And I don't believe Arlo left it for me so I could pawn it to some museum.
Well, why do you think he left it then, Lloyd?
I think maybe it was his way of reaching out, of showing closeness to another human being. A closeness he could share only sparingly.
Hey, Lloyd, I need a couple of beers.
See, Arlo wasn't a man in search of immortality. He was an immortal in search of the man he should have been. And the coin, well, I guess that was his way of giving up a small piece of himself while saving his own dignity. You know, to the fox, the hunt isn't a sport. It's life or death.
And your fox made it clean off into the brush.
Well, sir, Doc went and had the coin framed for me, and so I put it up here, just to remind me that history's not just the dates and places they always taught you in school. It's the people that made the history. Just like you and I do, every day.